Sri Krishna, being the Supreme Lord Himself, is the best person to explain the truths of all existence. For the one who has created the entire cosmos alone knows every detail, every aspect of it, in and out. So, by virtue of that, He is the supreme authority on all knowledge, be it worldly, be it metaphysical, be it spiritual. Every aspect of this universe, every aspect of this cosmos is pervaded by His consciousness, and therefore He knows everyone inside out. Tat Tvamasi or Om Tat Sat, as in the last chapter we saw. If you are that Brahman consciousness, then you permeate and pervade everything, including the sparrows here. They say when the Shuka Muni would speak, the animals, the birds, the snakes, the bees, they will all come and gather around him to listen to the Bhagavad Gita. And they are not ordinary beings, they are all rishis and tapasvis and sadhakas who would transform themselves into such animals to listen to the nectar of a divine discourse. So these birds have been around, 4 of them, for quite some time here. I think they are here to attain moksha. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, Sri Krishna says. Forget if you don't understand whole of Gita, even a little bit of it you understand and you practice, it will take you across, it will annihilate the biggest of the fears. And the biggest fear is that we will die one day. And that fear arises from the confusion and illusion that we are the body. So that also is taken care of. So that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. You see, it's for all. It's not a religious text. It's a spiritual text. In fact, it's a manual for all life. And when should one read a manual of anything? For example, you buy a new equipment or an instrument or a phone or a car. When should you read the manual? After you have damaged it? Generally we do that. After it stops working, we have done something wrong. Then we open the manuals and what went wrong? But that paschatapa is of no use. You have already destroyed that thing. So if Gita is the manual for human life, how one should lead one's life, what is to be avoided, what is to be accepted, what works should be done, what should not be done, how it should be done in order to attain the highest. How human life has been given to attain the highest. So how to do that? Bhagavad Gita describes it all. And who has written this manual? The one who has created the gadget. He has written the manual. Who else can write? Who else has the authority to write about it or speak about it? So Sri Krishna, being the Supreme Lord, the very embodiment of that Supreme Consciousness, that Akshara Brahma, it speaks about every aspect of human life, speaks about the nature of our mind, the Prakriti, and also speaks about the Akshara Paramatma and how Paramatma and Prakriti are always together, and how that same Paramatma appears as Jivatma, seemingly enjoying or suffering along with the vagaries of the human life and the vicissitudes of the human mind. But he is not. That is the ultimate idea. And when we get established in the thought that we are neither Prakriti nor the Purusha, but we are the Purushottama, we are the ultimate supreme reality, all our sorrows, all our confusion, doubts are dispelled, our moha is destroyed. So far Arjuna's story began with moha only. In the very beginning, when Arjuna came to the battlefield, he was all prepared. He wanted to teach a good lesson to his evil cousins, Kauravas. But on the sight of his own uncle and grandfather and the teachers and things like that, he got jittery. And he got overcome by this delusion, this moha. And he decided, I don't want to. Nayotsyamiti Govinda. I don't want to fight. That's what he said and sat down. And then Krishna scolded him. First he had to, wake him out of his reverie, pull him out of that depression. Klaibyam magama smartha. Don't be a non-masculine person. You're born a male, you're born a kshatriya, be a kshatriya. Where is this cowardice coming to you from? And gave him a big blow, and Arjuna, startled, came out of his reverie, and then he listened to Krishna. He said, I don't know what is right, what is wrong. I've been confused. But I pray to you, Shishyas, te aham. I want to become your Shishya now. Shadi mam te prapandam. Please instruct me, I'm confused. And then the manual begins. How do I use this opportunity, this human life? I do not know. I make mistakes. I may waste it. Oh Lord, teach me. And the Lord teaches Bhagavad Gita. From there, the last 17 chapters, starting with Arjuna Vishada Yoga, which is the confusion and the sorrow and despondency of Arjuna, born out of delusion, out of ignorance, to the Sankhya Yoga, where Krishna analytically describes to Arjuna what is to be done, what is not to be done, why it should be done, and who you are truly. You are not this body and mind, you are beyond. Your body is a vesture that you put on every time you come, but your Atma is indestructible, immutable, eternal. So all these truths Krishna tells and also teaches him how to discriminate between this impermanence and that permanent thing. Buddhi Yoga, he says. And then he goes on to explain to him that there are people in this world who live like this. Tritaprajna they are called. And Arjuna's curiosity is aroused. Oh really? I thought this is the first time you are telling these things to me, so maybe I am to be the first person like that. There are people like this, that's very encouraging. Please tell me about them. Tritaprajnasya ka bhasha. And Krishna describes what it is to be a man of equanimity. And he explains that this man is happy within himself. And he is not affected by the dualities of life. So you also become like that. Sukha dukkha samay kritva, labha, alabha, jaya, ajayo, tato yuddhaya yujjasva, naivam papamasi. Don't worry about the sin that you will commit, that your Varna Shankara will happen, your Pitaras will fall, and all the women will be ruined. Don't worry about all the sins that may come from this war. You think it's a sin. But if you become equanimous like a Chitaprajna, none of these issues will ever haunt you. And he explains to him, encourages him. Then he goes to Karma Yoga, 3rd chapter, explains to him how he should perform this action. Because in this world, nobody can stay without performing action. That is what Krishna says. Not for a moment. Everybody is acting, performing some action. So how do you perform action so that actions don't bind you, but they liberate you? They help you to overcome all kinds of illusions and attachments and the dualities, and help you purify yourself to establish in the constancy of your equanimity. So he teaches Karma Yoga, many beautiful shlokas are there. After that he goes to Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. He says just renouncing the fruits of the action, saying only my right is on the action and not the fruit, is still a lower understanding. The better understanding is to find out who is the real doer in the first place. Now, what gives you the authority to even say, I perform the action and I renounce the fruits? Who is the real doer in the first place? And then he explains, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga is an explanation that all gunas are the reason why you do whatever you do. You are not even the doer. Your gunas propel you to do certain things. So do everything and as Brahmarpanam. Everything, think of it as the Brahman itself is doing through the instrument is Brahman, the actor, the doer is Brahman, the enjoyer is Brahman, the act of performing actions is Brahman. So everything is Brahman. That is the idea he conveys. Then he goes to Karma Sannyasa Yoga. He says the right way is that you become a sannyasi of karma. You don't try to be a tyagi of karma. Don't try to renounce fruits of action, but become a sannyasi of karma. Who is a sannyasi of a karma? The one who has no desire for any results out of it. You may desire a result and then renounce it. That's even a lower thinking. And if you can't understand who you are and who is really the performer of the action, don't worry. Minimum you can do is you establish yourself in this thought that you are the divine. Yoga yukto jahati. Ube dushkrite. All things you give up. Become yoga yukta. And once you become a yoga yukta and completely establish in that yoga, where your mind is one with the Supreme, there is no doership. So there is no enjoyership. There is no question of you doing. So where is the question of you renouncing anything? Karma sannyasa you do. And then our Arjuna says, it's very difficult for me to establish myself completely. My mind is very fickle. Chanchalami mana. Krishna. It's very difficult. I can as well control wind, but I can't control my mind. Krishna says, you're right. Most of the people have this problem. They can't establish, even if once they get there and establish themselves in that ultimate truth, soon after they fall. They're unable to hold on, stay on in that state. So, but he tells, Abhyasa, do practice, practice, practice. Practice makes man perfect. And then he teaches him Dhyana Yoga, how to make his mind steady, so that he's able to establish himself in that thought of that I am Brahman, and Supreme is doing everything, and never is confused and deluded. Never for a moment thinks he's the doer or the enjoyer. That way he'll be free from the results of the action. From Dhyana Yoga, Sri Krishna says, whom are you to meditate upon? Dhyana is right. Dhyana is to meditate. Steady your mind and place it on something for long, dhyana. But whom should you do it? Then he explains who is really the entity, who is that being on which you should do meditation, who should be meditated upon. So comes the Jnana Vijnana Yoga, where Krishna talks about he himself being the apara and the para. He had the 8 various modifications in which he appears as apara, that is the prakriti. And beyond that, there is this para nature, the beyond supreme, which is untouched, unaffected by everything. So he says that only very rare people, bahunam janmanamante, after several births of efforts, somebody reaches this state. So don't expect yourself to reach it by the end of this discourse. It won't happen. It will take time. But abhyasa you have to do, not give up. But there are people after many births who have realized Vasudevam Sarvamiti. They realize the divine only is everything. There is nothing other than divinity in this universe. You will also realize that he encourages. Then he continues to further elaborate through Akshar Brahma Yoga, the 8th chapter, where he talks about several beautiful Advaitic concepts of Brahma, Adhyatma, Karma, Adhidaiva, Adhiyagnya, and Prayana Kala. Means at the end, where do we go if we lead a life like this? All the explanations Krishna says, but he says also that you do not know when you are going to die, because last moment, whatever you think, that is what you will attain. So that's why tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmarayudhyacha. Therefore, always remember me, think of me. Because you do not know when you are going to die. We are not lucky enough to know when are we going to die. So therefore, all the time remember me so that you attain me without fail. And then he goes and tells him another super secret, Rajaguhya, Raja Yoga. Super secret. But the secret seems like such an open secret. Because he says, I am in all are in me, yet I am not in all and nothing is in me. You know, Arjuna's plight, you can imagine. Rope is the snake is the rope, yet rope is not the snake and snake is not the rope. That is the idea. Krishna explains that Advaitic thought and explains to him how you also can do that. It's Yoga Maya, everything is my Yoga Maya, that is my glory. That how I hide in plain sight and you can't catch me, yet I am everywhere. He explains, creates curiosity in Arjuna to know what that truth is, how it is so fascinating. What is this Maya? And then goes on to talk about various aspects of his presence. Arjuna asks, you say you are everything, everything is in you, yet you are not in anything, nothing is in you. What is all this? Please explain to me. How do you exist in all, yet you do not exist in anything? And then Vibhuti Yoga comes. Beautiful descriptions of Krishna's glory. Krishna's glory means Supreme Lord's glory. Not always, shouldn't equate Krishna with that body of Krishna. It is the supreme divinity. And he says, then Arjuna is curious, Keshu Keshu cha bhaveshu, teach me in which all ways I think of you, because you seem to be everywhere. I am always not having the time to sit down and meditate on your supreme consciousness. When I'm talking, walking, working in the kitchen or the office, how do I still meditate on you? And that is, he explains to him beautiful explanations. Several vibhutis are there. I gave an assignment also to find out. In that one is Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam, he says. Of all the education knowledge, I am the spiritual knowledge. So that is what we are interested in. We are putting efforts to learn. And from there, Arjuna is still not satisfied. He's hungry for more. I want to see that ultimate form of yours. How do I visualize? How do I behold that form? Krishna says, here I give you divine eyes to see my true form. And he shows the Vishwarupa Darshanam. And we have had a very nice session on Vishwarupa Darshanam. But the ultimate idea of Vishwarupa Darshanam is not imagining itself to a huge being stretching from earth to sky with several mouths and hands. And it is about Arjuna seeing Krishna in everything, in the good, bad, ugly, in the cruelty as well as in the goodness. Everything is Krishna. The death is Krishna, the birth is Krishna, the sustenance is Krishna. So he is overwhelmed by this vision, and first time he realizes whom he is dealing with. And he falls at Krishna's feet and says, forgive me, I have treated you with disrespect at times, not knowing your true glory. And he falls and says, like a father, please forgive me, like a friend, like a beloved, please forgive me. And he is very thrilled by this whole thing, but he says, please come back to your normal form. I cannot behold this anymore, it's scary. And then Krishna comes back, or whatever, Arjuna's Divya Chakshu, the divine vision disappears, and the regular vision comes, and he sees Krishna as it is, as he is. And then Krishna says, this what you have seen is impossible for even yogis and tapasvis and great ascetics to see. This is something that is very difficult for even devatas to see. But I have given you this special boon. And he says, the only way you can do this is develop bhakti, develop love for me, develop love for the divine, supreme, divine. And try to, when you develop love, you want to be with that divinity, you want to experience that divinity. So you try to experience me as I am. And Arjuna asks, how do I love you? As the Nirakara or the Sakara? The Bhakti Yoga comes. And Krishna beautifully explains that both ways you can reach me, but because you are in body and you have body consciousness, it's difficult for you to directly jump and think of me as the formless one. So start small, start with offering everything to me. And so he says, Sarva Kalma Phalatyagam is the easiest way. You can do Abhyasa, you can do Dhyana, you can do Upasana. All these are difficult ones, karma. But Karma Phala Tyaga is the easiest one, because it is Shreyo hi Jnanam Abhyasa, Jnana Dhyanam Yishishyate Dhyanat Karma Phala Tyagaha, Tyagat Shanti Anantaram. The moment you sacrifice, you become pure, you become immediately perfected, because there is no agitation, no expectation in you. Do that, it's the simplest way to do it. He brings down the toughest of the syllabus to the simplest of the ways to achieve it. Shortcut. Give up the fruits of action. That is the good. Not that it won't lead to the other things. After that, you will start, your heart will become pure, dhyana will happen, then you will get established in the truth, then you will reach the Nirakara, Parabrahman. But he says, start here at Karma Phala Tyaga, and explains what are the qualities of a good devotee. And he says, those who follow these qualities, they become very dear to me. And once you become dear to God, you become near to God. In fact, you become God. That is the idea. And then from there, Krishna goes into the Advaitic side of things. As I say, the three parts of Bhagavad Gita: work, worship and wisdom. Work part is the first 6, that is Karma Yoga. Worship part, Upasana, is the second 6 chapters. And the last 6 chapters, more or less, in fact, the 13, 14, 15th are very detailed in terms of their explanation about the truth, Prakriti and Purusha. So he comes to Kshetra, Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, 13th chapter, and he explains that I am the Purusha in all Prakriti. I am the Supreme One, but I also am available, I am present in all. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. In all beings, good, bad, and sentient, everything, I only exist as Jivatma. The Jivatma concept is introduced, and many other things also he asks, what is Prakriti and Purusha, Kshetra and Kshetrajna, and things like that. So we have Akshara and Kshara, all these things we have learned during that chapter. And then from there he goes, why are we not able to experience that presence everywhere? Because we have gunas that come in our way. These gunas are something, the modes of nature that we are born with because of many births of associations, attachments, actions and habits. So he explained there is 3 kinds of guna: sattva, rajas and tama guna. And those who follow sattva guna, they rise in spiritual evolution. Urdhvam gacchanti sattastha. All the sattvic people grow, evolve. Whereas madhya tishtanti rajasa. All the rajasic people driven by passions and pursuits of their desires and selfishness, they stay where they are, more or less swinging like a pendulum. And then there are those jaganya gunavrittistha, all those with terrible qualities. They are tamasic people, lazy, not interested in spirituality, not interested in putting efforts on spiritual path, very cruel, very lethargic. Those such people, they go down, he says, adho gacchanti. So they all go down. So this is why you should choose your company, because your company influences your gunas. In the presence of good people, noble people, our sattvic qualities start manifesting, start growing. In the company of tamasic people, our tamasic qualities get encouraged. So I had told that time, satsanga is the most important to change your qualities. You may be born in a certain way. You can't change that, how you are born. But what you can do in this life, much depends on your efforts. And good company is very important. You may not have a taste for it, but develop a taste for it by constant efforts. That is important. And then he goes to Purushottama Yoga, one of the most beautiful chapters. And he describes how he is not just the Purusha, but he is Purushottama. The same sun who reflects in the water and appears to be captured in that little pot of water is only a reflection. This also is sun, that also is sun. But that is the ultimate supreme one sun who reflects in all puddles and pools. One electricity which travels through all the bulbs. So this is the idea of Purushottama Yoga. And we have to realize that Purushottama part of it, from Purusha we should become Purushottama. Then he explains Daivasura Sampada Vibhaga Yoga. For some people it's naturally to, they're inclined towards realizing self. Some people do not. And they have certain qualities. So why this is? Because this is like a small self-assessment. Daivasura Sampada Vibhaga Yoga is like, take all the qualities of Daiva, put it on one side, Asura, put it on the other side, and start ticking which all you have manifest in your life at different points in time. When you come here, you are manifest mostly Daivic qualities, but in a place where nobody is watching you, nobody is observing you, and you are overtaken by or overwhelmed by other emotions, think of yours. And then I think you should make a chart for yourself and keep putting and assessing how you are improving in these aspects. So that is why Krishna gave the Daivasura Sampada Vibhaga Yoga, and we know Asura Sampada he described in great detail, because that's what most of the people are unable to overcome. So he gives such beautiful explanation. And then comes to Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. He says that ultimately your Shraddha is the most important quality you must have as a spiritual seeker. If you are born tamasic, if you have a lot of the asuri qualities, yet you develop Shraddha by virtue of association with a good person, or by reading a scripture, or by coming in touch with a guru, that Shraddha can take you forward. But again, Shraddha also can be of three kinds, tamasic, rajasic, sattvic. And then he says, accordingly we do yajna, tapa, and dana kriyas in our lives. These are three important things we do. Yajna we do, all actions that we perform is yajna basically. Then we again do yajnas of three types, sattvic, tamasic and rajasic. And then tapa is austerities that we must perform for the sake of our own personal evolution. First is a duty towards all beings. We have various kinds of yajnas towards all beings. It's for the welfare of the society and also personal welfare. But tapa is about spiritually evolving. Developing that focus of mind and growing spiritually, that is tapa. But people again do it in different ways. Some people torture themselves in the name of tapas and torture everybody around, and they grow, no, they're not at all, they're growing in spiritual part. They think they're doing a lot of austerities and doing a lot of tapas. That's tamasic tapas, he says. So that is also not true. And then he says all the dana also people do in different ways. But these three are most important actions that we must perform: yajna, dana, tapakriya. And these three should be done with pure way. It should be done in a pure way, in sattvic way. This will purify us, and that purity will lead us to divinity. That is the essence of Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Now, more or less, we have taken a quick glance at the whole of Bhagavad Gita, and we are coming to the final chapter, which we will finish in today and tomorrow mostly. A good teacher or a good speaker first tells what he is going to tell, then tells, and then again tells what he has told. This is the rule. First, tell what you are going to tell, and then tell what you have told. So first Krishna in second chapter tells what he is going to tell. Entire Sankhya Yoga covers the entire essence of Bhagavad Gita. All aspects he touches upon in a small way. Tell what you are going to tell. He sets the context. Then throughout Bhagavad Gita he tells. Between the 3rd to 17th chapter, he is telling whatever he has to tell. And 18th chapter is he is going to tell what he has told, summarizing it. A good teacher must run his class also like this. Start the class by telling what are we going to learn today, what are the objectives, what we should attain by end of this class. Then throughout the class he should tell exactly what he has decided to tell and not confuse them by bringing new topics from somewhere. But this teacher is very sharp. He sticks to the subject. And at the end he summarizes it for the student so that it completely settles in the mind. The student is able to assimilate. I tell good teachers are like cows. They eat grass but they give milk. In our country, cows are even greater. They eat plastic, paper, everything and still give milk only. So Indian gurus are far superior that way. Despite all the ridicule and insults, they still are compassionate to accept everything and yet give pure milk. That is the essence of the scriptures to the devotees. That is the beauty of a teacher. So one should be like that, and Krishna is the best teacher. All our teachers can take inspiration from Bhagavan Krishna for the kind of teacher that he has been. And what a classroom, battlefield, practical, theory plus practical, no two separate sessions. Then and there. And all this has happened, imagine both of them standing in the battlefield. We took a whole year, but they just managed in battlefield. So you can imagine how Krishna must have frozen time, or kind of squeezed the time. Like in dream state, we go somewhere and we come back. A whole night's journey to Chennai, and then we come back after meeting somebody next morning. But when you wake up, you have not moved an inch from your bed, but you have seen so much. Many times you get dreams. People tell me, Swami, you came in my dream, you gave me instructions. It was a long set of instructions, but I don't remember anything now. I tell, what use is that dream then? But seemed like you were with me for the whole day. We were walking, talking and smiling and playing, but I woke up, you were not there. So that is what I tell you, the time is an illusion. Time is an illusion. In fact, every time our atomic clock has to, reset, has to be reset to match the Earth's actual time zone, timelines, because it is not perfect. So every time we have to match it. So actually time is an illusion. Then what is this leap year and all that stuff? And what is the Shunya Masam? This is all adjustments in timings, right? So time is an illusion. So this time which Krishna and Arjuna are spending on the battlefield must have been in another state. where it might have happened a few minutes, because you can't keep both the armies waiting while you take a whole year to learn Bhagavad Gita. And battle has to start. Conches have been blown, trumpets have been blown, drums have been sounded. We are here to fight. Swords have been drawn. And then this Gita starts. So something has happened there. Krishna has taken Arjuna into a different mental state and explained the whole Bhagavad Gita. And by the time they finish Bhagavad Gita, hardly any time would have passed for those who are in the earthly time plane. So this is how Bhagavad Gita was taught to Arjuna. Now we are coming to the 18th chapter, and Gyaneshwar Maharaj says, Ashtadhyaya, the last adhyaya of the Bhagavad Gita, is as good as whole Bhagavad Gita. So he calls it Ekadhyayi Gita. Like the Kalasham of the temple, this is so important, the most important part. Ekadhyayi Gita means you can read the whole Bhagavad Gita or you read the last chapter, more or less it is Bhagavad Gita, he says. In fact, a story is there, somebody asked, I don't have time to read the whole of Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapters, and I'm very busy, man, what can I do? He said, at least can you read one shloka? He said, what is the shloka? Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. You have already studied this, it comes in this chapter. He says, oh, this is too much of Sanskrit for me to understand, tell me even less. If you can't read 18th chapter, read at least this one shloka. If you can't even read one shloka, at least read one word, ma shucha. Even that if you believe in, you will redeem yourself. Ma shucha means don't worry, surrender to me and don't worry. That is the ultimate essence, somebody said. But I think when I read the 18th chapter for the sake of teaching, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is actually the very first shloka. Dharma kshetre, kuru kshetre. Remember, samayeta yuyutsavaha. In that you take the dharma kshetre, kuru kshetre 4 words and rearrange them. Kshetre, kshetre, dharmam kuru. Do your duty at all times, in all places. That's the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Because again, when you get into 18th chapter, half of the chapter is about karma only, duties. So while Karma Yoga got over in first 6 chapters, even less than first 6 chapters, now this 18th chapter, half of the chapter spends on how one should perform actions, what kind of actions we should perform, what are the reasons for which we perform actions, what are the various instruments and motivations for our actions, what does it lead to. All this is in the 18th chapter. So that is why if you see Bhagavad Gita's essence is Kshetre, Kshetre, Dharmam Kuru. Do your duty correctly at all times. That itself will take you to the divinity. I always say love without duty is divine. Love with duty is human. And duty without love is not even human, demonic. So duty without love is deplorable. Duty with love is desirable. But love without duty is divine. So Krishna is teaching us, love without duty is something that you develop now. And again, 18th chapter will take us through a long explanation on various actions. I thought it might be worth spending 2 days on this chapter so that it completely sets into our minds and hearts and remains there forever, especially because we as an organization have reinvented ourselves as social organization, service organization, which is based on spirituality. Earlier we were a spiritual organization which was doing service. But now we call ourselves as service organization based on spirituality. It's just the other way around. So for somebody who is engaged in service, means engaged in action, that too, what kind of action? Supposedly selfless action. Supposedly actions without any expectations. Supposedly actions suffused with divine love. We have to be very careful in understanding how we are performing the actions. And as you go through this chapter, keep on assessing yourself. Are you really performing the actions the way it is supposed to be? Forget about those who are stuck in many other worldly pursuits. They have various reasons, their motivations are different, their intentions are different. The outcomes are different accordingly. But we who have been given an opportunity to perform selfless actions over here, are we doing it correctly or not? Or are we wasting an opportunity, something that you must all through assess for yourself. Don't assess the next person, assess yourself. Don't try to see whether others are doing the action properly. Find out whether you are doing everything right, having got this wonderful opportunity.